Hello and welcome to my channel, which will, among other things, be addressing mainly topics related to telecommunication, particularly cellular communication. I have to start somewhere, so I'll start with a video discussing the basics of communication by looking at the most common form of communication, which is audio communication. We'll look at the aspects of audio communication, and this will form the basis of future discussions about how cellular networks operate and the kind of problems that they are addressing to facilitate better communication between people. This is an introductory video based on the comments and what people want to know more. The next video will be decided. But if nothing concrete will come, then I'll briefly say at the end what I plan to be discussing in the next video. So without further ado, let's get into today's discussion. Communication background. I've added the word Tele there. This prefix we'll discuss at the end of this video. We'll address this basic form of communication, audio communication, which is the form of communication using voice to convey messages. What we need for this communication to take place, we need a speaker, someone who is speaking, and we need someone who is listening. This is the intended person to get the message from the speaker, and also need the medium through which the voice will be carried from the speaker to the listener. So in audio communication, without any other form of aid, the speaker will speak out the words or the sounds, and then this will be carried in a sound wave through the medium, which is air, to the listener, who will also translate the sound waves into an audio signal, which will further be translated into the words being said or the sounds components within that voice, and ultimately get the intended message. So how good or how bad this communication is will be measured by audibility and clarity. Audibility is simply how loud is the voice reaching the listener, and the clarity is about how well are the words or component sounds within the voice decoded by the listener to be able to get the message. You can have an audible voice which is not very clear. So this is a situation where someone may be calling you and you go like, hey, I can hear you, but I don't clearly understand what you're saying, which means the voice is audible, but clarity is not good. There are things that will affect audio communication between two people, speaker, listener, and having AI as medium in between. One is distance. If the speaker and listener are too far apart, the voice from the speaker will have hard time reaching the listener with large enough intensity for the listener to be able to understand what is being said. Another thing is the speaker loudness. How loud is the speaker? Because the voice loses intensity as it travels through air. If the listener is a bit distant from the speaker, then the speaker needs to be louder. He has to start with a loud voice. By the time it reaches the listener, the voice, although it has lost intensity, will still be loud enough to be clearly decoded by the listener to get the message. Another limiting factor is the positioning of the ears. As human beings, we use ears to hear the voice or the sounds, and how the ears are positioned with respect to where the speaker is also affect the efficiency of the listener to hear the voice from the speaker. If someone talks to you at some distance, sometimes you have to turn your head in a certain way to have to hear better the voice coming from the speaker. So this turning of the head is actually reorienting the ears in the best direction where you'll get the most out of the voice being received from the speaker. Another thing is the sensitivity of the ears. If the sensitivity is good, it means the listener can be able to hear even low intensity voice from the speaker and be able to decode the message from that voice. If the ear sensitivity is bad, it means someone will be having a difficult time to decode the message from the voice heard from the speaker. You can have two people at the same distance from you, and you say something to them. One hears it and understands, one does not hear it well enough to be able to understand the message. If the ear sensitivity is too bad, this person can be termed to be deaf. So this is another thing that will limit this communication. And the last thing is other noises. If I'm talking to someone and there are other noises also reaching him, those other noises will dilute my voice reaching him and will make it more difficult for the person to understand what I'm trying to say, because too many noises are coming at once alongside my voice. So we understand this because when someone talks to you in a very noisy environment, you'll not be able to understand what they are saying. Let's look at different situations that we might face in the course of communicating audibly. So, one situation or scenario is this, where the speaker and the listener are very close to each other, no other noises around. In this environment, the speaker may use very low intensity voice. Here we can see she's actually whispering, very low intensity noise, but still should be understood by the listener. This is what I call an ideal environment, because you need minimum energy to convey the message, because the distance is very small and there are no other interfering noises. Another environment in the course of communicating audibly is a situation where the speaker and the listener are not too close to each other, but are also not too far from one another. So this allows them to use normal voice intensity in communicating. The speaker here will neither be shouting, nor will he be whispering. He will be just using normal voice intensity. Most of us communicate under these circumstances, and this is why when you need to talk to someone, usually you approach them until you maintain a small enough distance to be able to talk to them with normal voice intensity. This is what I call normal environment. Another situation you may encounter is a situation where two people are communicating, but they're also close to other people who are communicating. This means it's very likely that these two people can also hear what these other two people are saying to each other, and therefore this will interfere with their communication and make it more difficult for them to understand each other. Usually in this kind of situation, these two people may try to raise their voices so that they can hear each other better, but in so doing, their raised voices also will interfere more with these two who are also trying to communicate, and the two may also try to raise their voices to counter this interference, and in so doing, they will all be affecting each other. But this is not intentional. It's just because they are communicating and these are communicating, but because they are very close, they'll be interfering with one another. So this is what we call the interference problem. And we have another situation where the speaker and the listener are separated by a large distance for voice communication. So this boy here he appears to be shouting to someone who is not very close, trying to defy the distance as the limiting factor. At much larger distances, even shouting will not help, because even if you start with a very loud voice here, but due to distance, that voice will already be attenuated by the time it reaches the listener. The intensity will be too low to make out what was being said. This is what we refer to as the attenuation or coverage problem. Telecommunication essentially was invented to address the problem of distance. This means communication at a distance. This started in the 19th century after the discovery of electricity. People were able to find ways to communicate at a distance using electricity. The word telecommunication has its roots from this Greek prefix tele, meaning distant, and communicare, which is Latin, meaning to share. Loosely, these terms are forming this word, telecommunication, which essentially means communicating over large distances using electronic means in today's terms. This is about it. I wanted to share this introduction because it's a very good basis of many future discussions with regard to how cellular communication networks operate, how mobile phones work when it comes to communication. So, if you have any more insight or questions or additions, you can chip in the comment section. Let's make it interactive. And if nothing specifically will be asked to be discussed with regard to this initial discussion, next week I'll proceed to discuss the early telecommunication networks, which were essentially fixed line networks. That will also be a good historical discussion that will lay another foundation for better understanding of how the cellular networks are organized today and the kind of challenges they had to overcome to operate as they are today compared to how they started. There are things today that are still here because of the historical design of telecommunication networks. That's why I think it's good to start there. It could be a one or two slide discussion like this, and then we can move into the more modern networks discussion. So thanks. See you in the comment sections, or otherwise in the next video that will come out in a week's time. So thanks again. See you.